Hello there and welcome to the news at 6. I'm Tracy Shilshi and in the next 30 minutes I'll be getting you all the day's top developing stories. Let's start with the headlines. The Vice President bats for unity among all religions for a plural society, also asserts India's commitment to protecting rights of religious minorities. Prime Minister Narendra Modi releases the country's first national disaster management plan. Based on UN Sendai framework, the plan spells out role of government even at the grassroots. To boost production and check price rise, government increases the MSP of paddy and pulses for the 2016-17 Kharif season. Clamour for Rahul Gandhi as Congress president grows, elevation likely by the end of this month. And Iraqi forces make advances into Fallujah despite resistance from the Islamic State, but concerns rise over an estimated 20,000 children caught in the crossfire. Top story this hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi today released the country's first National Disaster Management Plan. The National Disaster Management Plan aims to make India disaster resilient and significantly reduce the loss of lives and assets. The plan is based on the 4 priority themes of the UN Sendai framework. NDMP covers all phases of disaster management, which include prevention, mitigation, response and recovery. The plan also spells out the roles and responsibilities of all levels of government, right down to the panchayat and urban local body levels. The plan has a regional approach, which will be beneficial not only for disaster management, but also for development planning.
Vice President Hamid Ansari and Moroccan Prime Minister Abdelillah Benkirane jointly launching the India-Morocco Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Rabat on Tuesday. On the occasion, the Vice President said that it was a discovery for him that such a chamber did not exist. He added that it is the need of the hour in a globalized world.
Without chambers of commerce, we did trade. But the world is changing. And in the world of today and tomorrow, a globalized world, much greater interaction, we do need bodies like chambers of commerce, which are repositories of information.
Bilateral trade between the two countries stood at $1.26 billion in 2015, with Indian exports forming roughly 25% of the trade volume. Morocco has emerged as a favoured destination for investment by Indian firms. A cumulative investment of more than $320 million has been made by these firms, including in the flagship project, the Indo-Morocco Phosphor SA joint venture.
We trade, certainly, modestly, but capacities are changing, and therefore the capacities to trade are changing. And this is where the focus of the Chamber of Commerce should be on both sides.
India and Morocco signed 2 MOUs on cultural cooperation and institutional training for foreign service officers in the presence of Vice President Mohammad Hamid Ansari. 3 other MOUs relating to water resource, television broadcasting and education were also finalized between the two countries. Both sides also stressed on the need for injecting fresh momentum into their bilateral relations by improving issues of economic and political stability and human resources development.
We look at Morocco as a trusted partner across a range of issues. We appreciate Morocco's support for India's candidature to expanded United Nations Security Council.
They are very keen that Indian businesses use Morocco as a platform for access to both European and American markets, with which they have preferential and free trade agreements. So they have easy access for their products, but also more importantly for the West African market.
On Tuesday, the Vice President also paid homage to Morocco's King Mohammed V. He later met the Speaker of the country's lower house of Parliament, Abdel Hakim Benkemas.
Launching a platform for business and trade between India and Morocco was the need of hour. Although India may not be a competitor to China, but surely this road may lead to competition in future. With video journalist Kawaljeet and my colleague Vishal Kumar Jain, Anu Diwan from Morocco for Rajya Sabha TV.
And like we mentioned earlier, Prime Minister Narendra Modi today released the country's first National Disaster Management Plan. It in fact aims to make India disaster resilient and significantly reduce the loss of lives and assets. The plan is based on the 4 priority themes of the UN Sendai framework. The NDMP covers all phases of disaster management, which include prevention, mitigation, response and recovery. The plan also spells out the roles and responsibilities of all levels of government, right down to the panchayat and urban local body levels. The plan has a regional approach, which will be beneficial not only for disaster management, but also for development planning. Meanwhile, the central government has increased the minimum support price of paddy for the 2016-17 Kharif season. In a decision expected to boost output and check price rise, MSP for pulses has also been increased to up to 425 rupees per quintal for this year.
The Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs has approved a bonus of 425 rupees for pulses and 100 to 200 rupees per quintal for oilseed growers over and above the MSP. The decision is to encourage domestic production and check prices. MSP for paddy has also been increased by 60 rupees to 1,470 rupees per quintal for the 2016-17 Kharif season.
समर्थन मूल्य बढ़ाने के बाद भी जो दलहन है उस पर 425 रुपये का बोनस और तिलहन पर 100 रुपये का बोनस और तिल पर 200 रुपये का बोनस देने का निश्चय किया गया है और इस तरह से अरहर के दाल में जो वृद्धि समर्थन मूल्य में हुई है वो 9.2%, मूंग में 7.7%, उड़द में 8.1%.
The Cabinet has also given its approval to the postal payment banks. The government will set up 650 postal bank branches by September 2017.
To just announce that by September 2017, all the 650 branches of the postal payment bank will become operational. ये हम आपसे कहना चाहते हैं। ये कि बहुत ही बड़ा फैसला है और इसके शुरू होने के बाद हमारा postal payment bank will become the largest network of banks in the world.
The Cabinet also gave its nod to the Mau-Tarighat new railway line project and gave ex facto approval to the proposal for Chennai Metro Phase 1 of 9 kilometers. Vishal Daya's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, there has been an increase in fuel prices yet again. Petrol prices have been hiked by 2 rupees 58 paise and will now cost 65 rupees 60 paise per litre, while diesel has become costlier by 2 rupees 26 paise per litre and will now cost 53 rupees 93 paise for 1 litre. Fuel prices were last hiked on the 17th of May. India Oil Corporation and the current level of international product prices of petrol and diesel and the rupee-dollar exchange rate warranted this increase. Meanwhile, in the 4th straight monthly increase in rates, the price of aviation turbine fuel was hiked by a steep 9.2% in Delhi and by 9.4% in Mumbai. The price of non-subsidized LPG cylinder too now increased by 21 rupees to 548 rupees, the second monthly increase in rates. On to more news, and Rahul Gandhi's much talked about and long delayed elevation as Congress president is most likely to happen in just the next few weeks. According to party sources, the Congress vice president will be elevated to the top post in a major organizational shake-up in the coming weeks. The restructuring is likely to involve changes of several posts, including general secretaries, heads of various departments and the state PCC chiefs. Younger aspirants are expected to get key positions as the party seeks to revive itself following the series of poor results in the assembly elections. There has been a rising chorus in the party to bring in change and making people more accountable. The Congress Working Committee is expected to in fact meet this month and take the decision.
कांग्रेस प्रेसिडेंट का फैसला अगर वो चाहते हैं कि मैंने 20 साल कर लिया मैं हैंडओवर करूं तो इट इज हर डिसीजन एंड आई एम श्योर राहुल विल डू अ गुड जॉब।
पूरा कार्यकर्ता ये बड़े दिनों से चाहता था कि राहुल जी जिस तरह से मेहनत कर रहे हैं कांग्रेस पार्टी के लिए सड़क से लेकर संसद तक लड़ाई लड़ रहे हैं तो निश्चित ही उनके नेतृत्व में और ताकत मिलेगी।
Today, in fact, the Sehjada, it seems, is going to be the crowned prince of the Congress party, the crowned prince of the Congress party. This is what is the definition of dynastic politics. The dynasty is marching ahead.
कांग्रेस का अंदरूनी मामला है कि वो किसको अध्यक्ष बनाए, इसमें हमें कुछ नहीं कहना है, लेकिन मैं समझता हूँ देश की जनता राहुल गांधी जी की कार्यक्षमता के बारे में परिचित है और कांग्रेस अपने आप में एक डूबता हुआ जहाज है.
All right, for more on this, we've got a correspondent, Vishal Dahiya, in fact, joining us from the newsroom. Vishal, this move has been inevitable in a sense. We've been waiting for it, of course, a lot of people, Congress supporters definitely, also the opposition. So give us an idea of whether this time around we will actually see this elevation take place.
Well, that's the big question, Tracy. But in fact, it seems that the people will have the answer to this big question in a few weeks from now, given the indications which are coming in from the Grand Old Party. One very important point which is to be noted out here is that in addition to the very fact that this particular generational shift in the party and the elevation of Rahul Gandhi has been talked about for quite long, there have been a lot of speculations which have done round in the political corridors, as well as the speculations in media as well. But then it has been 3 years, rather more than 3 years, since Rahul Gandhi has held the post of vice president in the party. Yes. And those 3 years, electorally speaking, have not been very good for the party. So clearly, Rahul Gandhi has come under a lot of fire as far as electoral results for the party are concerned. The electoral fortunes of the party have gone down, starting from 2014 Lok Sabha elections to several assembly elections which have been fought after that, because ostensibly those elections were fought under both Sonia and Rahul Gandhi's leadership, as well as the strategy which was devised by Rahul and his team. But then now it seems the feeling within the top leadership of the party, and specifically within the Gandhi family, is that it is high time that Rahul Gandhi should be handed over the reins of the party, because there is one very important factor which is playing in the minds of several senior Congress leaders, and that is till when can the party or the party leaders can continue with the arrangements of having 2 leaders to report to. So clearly, the workers down below, as well as senior leaders of the party, want one particular person leading the party from the front. And in this case, it seems the time has come for Rahul Gandhi to take that charge in his hands. There is expected to be a generational shift once that happens.
Yes.
By generational shift, I mean clearly change in the entire setup at AICC. There would be some, old faces, some senior leaders who rather would be retained. But then there is a likelihood that several young faces will be included and will be given, larger responsibilities, just like we have seen in the recent past, wherein young leaders have been entrusted with the leadership of the state units, as well as given important portfolios when UPA was in power, and certain important positions in the party organization. But once Rahul Gandhi is at helm, and something which we are expecting should happen in another 30 to 45 days, then this particular change will gather pace, and we will see more young faces and the younger generation taking charge of several key positions in the party organization.
Absolutely, and I'm sure party supporters are looking forward to that, considering the kind of fate that the party has seen in the past few assembly elections. We'll have to wait and see eventually whether this move eventually pays off in those big 2 states that we're going to be seeing next year, UP and Punjab. Thanks so much, Vishal, for joining us with those details. We'll keep a track of course, this with you as the days progress. Meanwhile, India's GDP growth numbers might have brought some cheer for the government, and it starts with a third year in power. But the opposition is not amused. It claims that lack of jobs and low investment reflect a different story.
The Indian economy officially became a $2 trillion economy after it clocked 7.9% growth in the Q4 of the last fiscal. Improved farm output, notwithstanding 2 consecutive years of drought, better manufacturing, mining and electricity production all spurred the growth. And the government was quick to credit its coordinated action for the phenomenal growth.
सब लोग सामूहिकता के आधार पर समग्रता के साथ अपने अपने मंत्रालय का प्रामाणिकता युक्त काम करते हुए उसको आगे बढ़ाने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं, और जब सामूहिक रूप से इस तरह से प्रयत्न होता है तो स्वाभाविक है कि जीडीपी में बढ़ोतरी होगी.
The opposition, however, is not impressed. While challenging the new methodology to tabulate GDP figures, the Congress party also slammed the government for high unemployment rates and a bleak investment climate.
So if we go by the old method, In my opinion, as the party also has said, it's around 5%. It can't be more than that. Okay, even if you inflate it 8%, 9%, but that should be reflected in the performance. See, GDP is only a number, but the indication is the quantity.
The worrisome part in this growth story is that gross fixed capital formation, a proxy for investment, contracted 1.9% in Q4. However, corporate India feels that latest GDP data will help Prime Minister Narendra Modi craft an impressive sales pitch.
Great thing that India has become one of the fastest growing country in the world. 7.9 GDP is a encouraging number, though it might, in case if you take it as a totality, it may not be exactly the 7.9, but it's a very, very encouraging, and that gives the confidence to the government as well as the investor and the industry.
Saddled with idle capacity and stretched balance sheets, private companies are shy to make new investments. Festering bad loans, which have made banks wary of fresh lending, have also only worsened India's investment crisis. With a good rain forecast this year, hopes have risen for improved farm sector output to set the major economic engines chugging. Triti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV.
With that, a quick break here. We'll be back with the international stories in a bit. Stay with us.
Art arisen from a multi-hued cultural canvas. Tradition and cultural fervour dating back centuries. And encircling them all, there's a magic that awes. Embrace your nation's brilliant human warmth. Watch Colours of India, Sundays at 9:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. Let's get you more national news. And Goa Chief Minister Lakshmikant Parsekar has created furor with his remark that people in his state are annoyed with the behavior of Africans, particularly Nigerians, living there. His remark comes in the backdrop of a complaint by a woman that a Nigerian national abducted and raped her at gunpoint last week.
At a time when the central government is in a damage control mode following a spate of attacks on African nationals in India, Goa Chief Minister Lakshmikant Parsekar has raked up a controversy. Parsekar said people in Goa are angry with Nigerians because of their different attitude.
We get people from all other countries, but in general, the people of Goa are very much annoyed with their behavior, with their attitude, with their way of life. On many occasions, I hear complaints against Nigerians.
Parsekar's remark came in response to a recent incident in Goa where a Nigerian national allegedly raped a 31-year-old woman after kidnapping her at gunpoint. Parsekar, however, invited a lot of criticism both from the opposition as well as the African community in India.
First General V.K. Singh, now Goa Chief Minister belonging to Bharatiya Janata Party, are passing disparaging remarks against people from African continent and African nations including Nigeria. Don't they realize that we have a historical relationship with the entire African continent, including the freedom struggle which Mahatma Gandhi led in South Africa? The manner and fashion in which we are humiliating tourists, as also particularly people from African nations, speaks volumes about the racist attitude of BJP leaders.
It's not all African people is bad. No. There is some people has a bad behavior. So if one person has done something wrong, don't mix all people to be wrong. That is a very, very shame.
Earlier, Goa's Tourism Minister Dilip Parulekar had also demanded a new law to facilitate quick deportation of the Nigerian nationals. He claimed that in order to extend their stay in India, Nigerians get embroiled in criminal cases on purpose. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
The centre has promulgated for the third time an ordinance to amend a nearly 50-year-old law to guard against claims of succession or transfer properties left by people who migrated to Pakistan and China after the wars. Called the enemy property, it refers to any property belonging to, held or managed on behalf of an enemy subject or an enemy firm. The government has vested these properties in the custodian of Enemy Property of India, an office instituted under the central government. The Enemy Property Act was enacted in 1968 after the Indo-Pakistan War in 1965. The Act regulates such properties and lists the custodian's pass. Now, President Pranab Mukherjee has approved the Enemy Property Amendment and Validation Third Ordinance 2016 for the third time, which will replace the second ordinance pending in Rajya Sabha. Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Mehbooba Mufti filed her nomination papers today for the by-poll to the Anantnag Assembly segment. She is seeking to become a member of the state legislature within the mandatory period of 6 months from her swearing in as Chief Minister. Currently, she is a Lok Sabha member from Anantnag. The by-poll was necessitated after the death of her father Mufti Muhammad Saeed on the 7th of January this year. After filing her nomination papers, Mehbooba Mufti voiced hope that the people will repose faith and elect her so she can continue the work that her father started.
मुझे उम्मीद है अनंतनाग के लोग जिस तरह उन्होंने मुफ्ती मोहम्मद सईद साहब पे भरोसा किया, यकीन किया, उनको एक मौका दिया और उनको वजीर आला की कुर्सी तक पहुंचाया। मुझे उम्मीद है कि यहाँ के लोग मुफ्ती साहब के भरोसे के ऊपर भरोसा करते हुए मुझे कामयाब करेंगे और मुझे मौका देंगे जो काम मुफ्ती साहब ने अधूरा छोड़ा है उसको मैं पाए तकमील तक पहुंचा सकूं।
More news updates from Jammu and Kashmir and the rest of the country now in Nationwide. The death toll in the Pulgaon fire mishap rose to 19 as 3 more bodies were recovered from the site. The identities of the deceased are yet to be established. A massive fire broke out in the early hours of Tuesday morning at the Central Ammunition Depot in Pulgaon in Maharashtra. The army has instituted an inquiry into the incident. The Jammu and Kashmir government today put on hold the implementation of various proposals made in the budget for 2016-17 after the opposition leader Omar Abdullah's objections. Omar questioned how the government could implement the proposals without the Assembly's approval. Congress and BJP members too opposed the move. Assam Chief Minister Sarbanand Sonowal and 124 other newly elected members of the 14th Assam Assembly today took oath as members of the House. BJP MLA Ranjit Das was elected as Speaker unopposed. Oath to the new legislators was administered by the Pro Tem Speaker Fani Bhushan Chaudhary and AGP MLA from Bongaigaon. The 3-day session began today and will be addressed by the Governor on Thursday. Admission to Delhi University's 60,000 seats opened today and the entire process will be conducted online for the first time. According to DO officials, the online registration process will continue till the 19th of June. The first cut-off list, marks which students need to be eligible for admission to a college, will be announced on the 27th of June. Fire officials on Wednesday were still trying to douse the flames the day after a major fire broke out at the Adharwadi dumping yard in Mumbai's Kalyan area. More than 14 fire engines and 12 water tankers were pressed into service. Meanwhile, more than 2,000 people were moved to safer places as smoke and smog filled the area. The United States has called for improvement in bilateral ties between India and Pakistan in order to boost peace between the two countries. Expressing concern that a conventional conflict between India and Pakistan could escalate to include nuclear use, the US asked both countries to engage in a sustained bilateral dialogue process and exercise maximum restraint. Last month, both countries engaged in a war of words after Pakistan's nuclear scientist Dr. Abdul Qadir Khan said that Islamabad had the ability to target New Delhi in just 5 minutes. India retorted, saying that it was capable of targeting the whole of Pakistan. Iraqi forces thrust into the northern outskirts of Fallujah on Wednesday as part of their continued assault to retake the city from Islamic State and help protect the capital Baghdad from suicide bombings. Meanwhile, UNICEF has warned of a potential humanitarian disaster in Fallujah, estimating that 20,000 children are still trapped inside the city.
The battle for Fallujah has intensified, with Iraqi government forces continuing their advance towards the center of the city, despite the tough resistance put up by the Islamic State. Footage from the Islamic State-controlled city shows a fierce gun battle underway between the Iraqi soldiers and the Islamist militants. According to reports, as many as 106 militants have been killed in the latest clashes. On Tuesday, Shiite militias advanced into Saklavia district on the northern outskirts of Fallujah, a day after a thrust by the Iraqi army under US air support. The push into Nuaymiyah, a sprawling agricultural area in the south, was the first attempt by Iraqi forces to enter Fallujah.
باشا قطاع جاز مكافحة تراب بالتقدم إلى الأهداف المرسومة لها لتحرير قضاء مركز الفلوجة بالكامل من قبل قطاع جاز مكافحة تراب. إن شاء الله التقدم مستمر لتحرير كل القضاء. اليوم هاي المنطقة النعيمية والعمليات مستمرة والتقدم باتجاه مركز الفلوجة أيضا مستمر والاشتباكات جارية والإسناد الجوي أيضا من التحالف الدولي والقوى الجوية مستمر. الموجودة هنا قطاعات الشرطة والجيش وجهاز مكافحة الإرهاب.
In a statement, the UNICEF has issued a stark warning to the battling sides to spare the children. The statement also warned that children ran the risk of being forced to fight alongside the terror group. An estimated 20,000 children are trapped inside the city along with their families. Around 554 families have been able to escape since the 21st of May, but up to 50,000 people are still thought to be stuck up inside the city. The Iraqi army's assault on Fallujah has begun in what is expected to be one of the biggest battles ever fought against the Islamic State. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And now let's change tracks. Get you all the latest from the world of sports in Sports Beat. The tournament schedule for the ICC Champions Trophy 2017 was announced in England today. A total of 15 matches, including 3 knockout games, will be played from the 1st to the 18th of June 2017. Host England will face Bangladesh in the opening game at the Oval. India will launch its title defence against traditional rival Pakistan on the 4th of June 2017 at Edgbaston in Birmingham. Ace Indian shuttler Saina Nehwal will take on Indonesia's Fitriani in the second round of the Indonesia Open badminton tournament today. 8th-seeded Saina defeated Pai Yu Po of Chinese Taipei in the first round on Tuesday. Meanwhile, the women's pair of Ashwini Ponnappa and Jwala Gutta will also open their campaign against Indonesian duo of Febriana Kusuma and Ripka Sugirato today. The Indian Boxing Federation is likely to appeal for a wild card for Mary Kom after she failed to qualify for the Rio Olympics. Mary Kom lost the qualifying event of the World Boxing Championships last month. She was the first Indian woman to win an Olympic boxing medal when she clinched bronze at the 2012 London Games. In a landmark decision, the International Boxing Association today allowed professional boxers to compete at the upcoming Rio Olympic Games. In a vote of member federations, 88 members voted in favour of the move, while none voted against and 4 abstained. The decision is, however, unlikely to see boxing's biggest names enter the Olympic ring in Rio. Andy Murray will take on Richard Gasquet in the French Open quarterfinals today. The match was due to take place on Tuesday but was postponed because of rain in Paris. Defending champion Stan Wawrinka, meanwhile, will face Spain's Albert Ramos Vinolas in the other quarterfinal clash later today. And that's all we have for you on the news at 6. Thank you so much for joining us.